This is the third of our online workshops that introduce you to the process of discovering more about the site at Rosegarth Square in Boston. Here we're going to take you through the process that archaeologists go through for excavation itself. How do we dig, how do we record, what we find, and what happens to it all afterwards. Boston Borough Council successfully secured £14.8 million from the government funding in 2023 in order to kickstart regeneration and secure further investment to the heart of the town centre. This includes a new public park spanning the area between the river and the Len Medlock Centre. There'll be new green spaces, improved pedestrian routes, artwork and other features that seek to create an inviting, safe, accessible and enjoyable place for all. Crown House will be converted to provide a mix of residential and other uses to support young people and families. The B&M building will be demolished as enabling works to future redevelopment. In conjunction with the proposed works, a programme of community engagement will be undertaken, including this linked archaeology project, to better understand the history of the site and link the area's past to its future. First, a little recap of what we already know about the site. The area of the whole redevelopment project was once the site of rows of terraced housing, pubs and factories. The location of some of these are shown on this plan. During the 1960s, the Lincoln Lane area, almost opposite the stump on the other side of the river, was demolished in preparation for redevelopment. This redevelopment saw the construction of the buildings that we see today, including the former DWP offices that are highlighted in yellow and the B&M building highlighted in green. This redevelopment of the site during the 20th century will have truncated or removed any buried archaeological remains that are sat in the places these buildings were built. Landscaping across the site may also have removed the traces of buildings from the 19th century, but where there are open spaces and car parks, it is very possible that foundations and walls may remain. Beneath them, there might be traces of the medieval town of Boston, and, as we're next to the River Witham, that could include damp, waterfront deposits which preserve organic materials such as wood and leather. This Ordnance Survey map of 1889 shows the approximate location of the area we are going to investigate, and you can see that it has a brewery, terraced housing, and the area at the back of the Blue Lion Public House within it. Here are the results of the geophysical survey. Before we start, our team will check the service plans that show where electricity, water and gas pipes run to make sure that it is safe to dig. They will also use a cable avoidance tool to scan the area. We will then carefully remove the turf as the area has to be reinstated carefully once we finish. Once the turf has been taken off, we will remove any really modern soil and see what lies beneath. Walls and other remains from buildings will be easy to spot, but we will also be looking out for changes in the colour of the soil. Each thing we spot gets given a number to identify it, known as a context number. The best way to think of an archaeological context is that it represents not just a physical thing, but an event in time. Imagine that you dug a pit in the back garden of your house in order to throw away some rubbish. The act of digging the hole will leave a cut that an archaeologist coming along later would be able to see, because the rubbish and soil that the hole is then filled in with will be all a different colour and probably less compact than the soil surrounding the hole. If you filled the rubbish pit in over several weeks or months, each time with a slightly different collection of material, each one of those fills would be another context. This diagram shows how you would number the contexts where you had several pits cut through the ground at different points in time. This is looking at it in section or sideways on. All of this information is recorded onto a context sheet with prompts to remind us what data is needed. This includes measurements of the feature or the depth of the deposit, a standardised description of the composition and texture of the soil, notes on any finds, a section for your interpretation of the context, i.e. what it is and how it was formed, and places to cross-reference the photographs taken and any plans and sections that have been drawn. These photographs we take include a scale, like this one of a Roman burial. There are also boxes for the Harris matrix information. This is the context numbers that are above and below the one you are recording, not physically, but in terms of the sequence of events. We will take samples of the soil in order to look at whether there is environmental evidence like grains and seeds. Small mammal and fish bones are also best found this way. The soil samples are then passed through a flotation tank, washed through a mesh to separate the organic remains that will be lighter from the soil and pebbles. Finds are carefully lifted and put in labelled bags, separated by context, so that later on we will know where they come from. They are also separated by material to make sure they don't get damaged and so that it is easier to make sure that the specialists can look at them later. So why is pottery important? Pottery is one of the most useful things we find as it helps us to date the contexts. Pottery can be dated from the materials it is made from, its fabric, and the shapes and styles of the pots. When we have finished the excavation, we will collate all of the context sheets, drawings and photographs and use the information in them to reconstruct the story of the site. We will add the dating information from the pottery and finds to the matrix that will give us our sequence of events so we can travel back through time. The finds and samples will help us understand the function of any buildings or features that we find. We will present the results online via our website and YouTube channels, and a small exhibition is planned for the end of 2024.